think about ways that you can go outside of, okay, I have an awesome product and it's going to delight the customer, but how can I go further than that?
Welcome to the High Voltage Business Builders Podcast, a show where we interview high voltage entrepreneurs growing and scaling through e-commerce, real estate, and other wealth without Wall Street ventures, showing you the path to making your first or next million. All right, Jon, welcome to the call, man. It's good to have you here. I had a first fun conversation with you, and I appreciate you coming on to chat with me.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, Neil.
Yep. So we were jamming a little bit in the green room before the call. It's just kind of what should we chat about? And we have so many different things we could talk about. We covered a lot in our first call. So let's dig into some of the most obvious about you, and which is you're obviously an Amazon seller, and we are too. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the world of e-commerce, maybe business building, maybe patience, maybe exiting, cash flowing, anything on your heart and there that you want to talk about?
Yeah, a topic that doesn't get covered enough is exiting. So exiting properly. I help people with this specific situation all the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people come to me, they're like, okay, I'm positioned to exit. And I look at their business and we go through about 100-point checklist and I respond, I'm like, you are not even close to being ready to exit. Now, some people, they think they're ready, and the reality is that multiple is going to be subpar for them. And so the whole point is to get you that highest multiple possible. And really, the biggest issue that I see is people don't have that exit in mind from day one. And that's tough for people. I think it's getting a little easier now that the aggregator space has kind of made it common knowledge that you can sell an Amazon business.
Yeah.
But there are specific steps you really need to take to become optimized to sell your business.
So what are the couple of steps you normally see people are not taking that could right off the bat be a win for their potential exit?
Yes, and there's been a massive shift that's happened specifically in the aggregator space. And I would say going back a year, 100% FBA was allowable. Okay.
Yep.
So those days are gone. So if you don't have any social media presence, if you don't have Shopify presence, if you're not on multi-channel, so let's say you're on Amazon, if you're not on Walmart, that's going to be a ding for your multiple. And so potential buyers, they want to see you fully built out and really doing a lot of the dirty work for them and getting established. Their teams are going to take your brand to the next level, but they want to see that, okay, you already have the relationship with Walmart. You already have an agency ready to go with ads on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Everything is a well-oiled machine. They're going to scale it past your exit, but that's what they're looking for. So
that real upside
really
potential.
Remember each of those steps.
Yeah, man, that's great. It's a good synopsis. We always call it building the beginning with the end in mind, right? So we want to cash flow. These are great. We obviously want the profitability of them, but the exit should be really on our mind. I usually tell people at least get out to 24 months. Before that, you should have multi-channel. You should be building some email lists. You should be doing other market distribution channels that you feel comfortable with. What are your timeframes for things usually? What are you giving advice on?
I like to at least putting your business for sale. That needs to be optimized time-wise right after Christmas. And so you want to make sure that your most recent massive revenue is happening and included in your exit. So it would not make sense to put your business for sale in October, November.
Yep.
So you want to capture that full 12 months. Anytime after Christmas is totally fine. And you want to make sure you capture as much as you can, because any growth you have past Christmas is not going to be captured in your exit. So whenever let's say you go through an exit and it took 6 months, for example, any scaling you did those next 6 months, you will not get paid for. Okay. So you want to make sure that you are maximizing what you're getting for your business.
That's great input. It's about when to exit is kind of what you're talking about, right? So let's unpack that just a little bit more, because not everybody. It was literally a call this morning I had with one of my clients who called me up, and we spoke for about 45 minutes. And one of the major topics was, he's just broke 2 million in sales in less than 16 months, very profitable, on the right track. He wants to hit a certain metric and goal before he exits, but it's kind of like, when's the best time to do it, right?
Yeah.
And for my own edification, as well as people listening, I have an idea, but tell me what's yours in terms of like, what are those indicators that we should actually be looking at? Profitability, of course, is obvious, but time of market, obviously, as you mentioned, but what's another indicator that we should consider?
I mean, you want to have your product idea pipeline really built out. So, if you don't have a good 10, 20 products ready to go, you need that built out. So that takes time to get there, because really what you want to do during handover is say, okay, Mr. Buyer, here's my list of products that I'm personally planning in my business to launch over the next 12 months. You're going to get access to all of that information. And sometimes those are shop drawings, those can be 3D drawings, conversations with your factories, but those need to be real ideas that if the exit falls through, you would be launching yourself.
Yeah.
So you want that to be really secure and strong. And then another one is consistent growth. So, you're not going to be optimized to exit if you have negative growth in your business.
Yeah.
So you want to see strong year-over-year growth. Of course, I typically say a minimum of 20% net for that's for your entire business.
hmm
But really, they're looking for consistent growth in your business. So if you have like your last recent year, you have negative, you're going to need to spend the next year or 2 years to fix that and show that, okay, historically I had to drop that 1 year, but I fixed it. You're not going to want to exit if you are going through a massive slump right now.
Yeah. It's interesting what people are willing to sell as value in the market. I had a guy approach me the other day and the business looked great on paper. And I got the financials back and it was a Shopify store. It had upside potential for Amazon. It wasn't open yet, or Walmart. And I'm thinking, okay, this could be multi-channel relatively fast. That's one of the things I would look at as purchasing it. What's my upside potential versus product base? He had a decent product base going and a decent profit. Turns out he had no sales for the last 3 months. Well, how do you think you're going, like, who are you going to sell this to? Because for what you're asking, it's worth about 10 grand because you've got a framework, you got a concept and proof of concept. You don't actually have any sales, and you might be surprised. You might not be surprised. Someone listening might be surprised. I don't think you are, but that happens a lot in this business model.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. I mean, buyers are extremely intelligent now. So whether it's private equity or an aggregator or a private buyer, I exited with a private buyer. It was a serial entrepreneur, and he asked me really tough questions. So during the due diligence phase, when I was listening, it's really kind of like the core of that is they're verifying that everything you said in your exit interview is accurate and making sure that your numbers line up with everything you provided.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like an open kimono event of, okay, there's no secrets anymore.
Yeah.
But you need to be really strong, really everywhere, all the way down to your design patents, for example. So if you have unique designs, there's no reason why you can't have a pending design patent, have that part of the package of like, hey, a year from now, you're going to have full control for this specific design on Amazon. That's extremely attractive because everyone knows you're going to have 10 Chinese sellers coming after you anyways. So the ability to shut everyone down is very attractive.
Yeah, I know that operational independence and of course risk management are kind of the areas you're covering, which is very powerful. Most people don't understand that. They haven't been taught it. Maybe they started the side hustle, it turned into a business, or they simply weren't taught. Obviously, you've got the experience and the knowledge of doing an exit yourself. Is that, how did you get to that place? Like, where did you start at before you got to your exit?
In terms of design patents?
No, I mean, in terms of the business, in terms of where you were your story just a little bit, did you start on Amazon? Was it your first e-commerce business?
Yeah.
Was it?
No, we can cover a little bit of that. Yeah. I would say a classic story of I have a really great career, actually. So my background is construction management. I worked on just mega projects, including San Diego Airport. Had a bright future. Okay. So, from a money standpoint, I was going to make a lot of money. So I started Amazon in 2014 because I wanted to make more faster and not wait until I'm 60.
Yeah.
So that's the inspiration behind it. So I started 2014, just kind of like a sign up store, just started small. It was a modest golfing brand, and that blew up. So I became the leader in that space really fast. And then that led to 4 more brands. So at peak, I had 5 brands, over 100 SKUs, and I did over 10 million on Amazon. And it's kind of like a snowball effect. When people pay off debt, they use the snowball effect from Dave Ramsey. It's kind of the same thing. So, whatever I was learning, I was applying again and again and again and pivoting. So there was a time when, probably the toughest lesson I had to learn was cash flow management. So I got way too confident and I launched 10 variations on my most successful product. I'm like, oh, it's guaranteed. All 10 variations are going to be great. They're different, unique designs. The market's going to love it. Well, it turns out 6 were duds. And now I'm sitting on almost $500,000 of inventory. So these are very expensive units. So I had to make some cutbacks. I didn't pay myself for 2 months. I had to recoup a lot of the capital, sell at a lower price on Amazon and move forward. So,
well, life is a series of both missed opportunities and train wrecks, right? We made a divergence into wholesale FBA about over 6 years ago. as a great idea. We'd look at it now, and what I would use is the phrase crime of opportunity, which was, hey, my best-selling product's going to do great, so I'll just try to launch exactly or a variation of that, maybe a little too leveraged. Unfortunately, didn't work out. Ours was, hey, let's diversify. Private label stuff doing over here. It's doing great. Multiple brands running. Let's go see if we play with this wholesale FBA model for a little bit. Got it up in 18 months to 12 employees and
Wow.
10 truck rolls a week. And turns out that was a totally big waste of time. Created a job for ourselves. We were doing like net 7%. And it turned into the last straw was the, operations manager sexually harassing some of the girls. It was going to turn into an absolute nightmare. So we're like, hey, hands up, back away. That was a stupid foray, crime of opportunity. We've all got them. They're lessons. When people say, how do you know you shouldn't do the wholesale drop shipping, Amazon automation stuff? I'm like, let me tell you a story.
I see that on social media all the time.
All the time.
Typically, people are going towards private label. They're not going in the other direction. So, everyone's kind of like, okay, especially the people who are doing physically, like they're going to Target, they're going to Walmart, and they're like, oh my gosh,
shop your way to wealth.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of work, and some people make great money, but man, it is a time suck. So I always see those individuals pivoting over to private label. They're like, oh my gosh, like it's like their mind is blown. I can take my inventory from overseas or America and bring it to FBA and never touch it.
Yeah.
I'm like, welcome to private label. That's the beauty of it, is you can be on an island managing your business and you don't have to touch anything or pack anything. So it's awesome.
Yeah, it creates a freedom aspect of that. And people kind of understand that to some degree. And those, maybe some of you listening to this kind of understand you're working for that, or some of you have already attained it. But I mean, I live on 40 acres in the country. I know you've got a homestead thing going on, and it's like, we do life, we do family, we are always around. I don't have to travel. I was asked earlier if I'd go to an event, and I'm like, no, I don't need to go to events.
I turn a lot down too.
Yep, it's totally lifestyle driven business now, and e-commerce, and then utilizing Amazon First has been a great way to do that. FBA not having the infrastructure, 3PLs and others give us that ability to live anywhere. And so we have a very distributed workforce. But where are you going now? Like, you're launching still products, testing? Are you mentoring? Where are you at?
So what I do now, there was my secret sauce on Amazon was always finding niches that had the potential to blow up. Okay. So I didn't chase like hot products like supplements. I was always finding something that had maybe on average up to like 50 grand a month, sometimes 20. And my whole goal was to exploit that and come up with unique designs and then dominate the space.
Yeah.
So I took that same theory. After I exited, it took a year off, actually didn't do anything with the business and traveled with family. So that was an awesome time with my kids and my wife.
That's
and
cool.
We made a lot of memories. So then I applied the same idea to the Amazon space. There wasn't a strategic consulting mentor who was one-to-one and didn't pawn people off to employees.
Yeah.
So I wanted to create a boutique consulting agency that was really authentic. So, I call them Lambo boys. They're everywhere. They're typically rented.
IG TikToker Lambo boys.
Yeah.
Like the island version of the business IM world. I'm a Lambo boy.
Oh, I know. It's so cringy.
It is cringe.
My whole idea was, I'm going to launch something where people can know they're getting advice from someone that has done it all on Amazon, has those strong relationships in the industry, and is going to give them authentic advice. So a lot of times people come to me, especially from the automation side, and they're like, Jon, I just wasted $25,000. Please help me. And I asked them their story, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if it was me, I would have told you never to pursue that product because it has over 25 Chinese sellers. Like, why did you do it?
Right.
And they were basically swindled. So that's part of my mission too, is to help people go in the right direction on Amazon.
Yeah.
And there is a good way to go. And then there's a lot of really, really dangerous roads where people end up, sometimes the saddest stories are where people tap into their 401k and then the money goes poof. And guess who wins? Amazon wins, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be really careful with, how you spend your capital and invest it. So,
or the person who sold them up the river on that product idea in the first place.
Yeah.
Where does that rest of that money go? And I ran into that too. And just for clarity, expectations, and getting it all transparency on the table, Jon, you would be seen as somewhat of a competitor of Voltage, but I wanted you to come on here because I want people to understand there is a model of mentoring and business building that doesn't, do it yourself into spatulas and crappy products, where you as a genuine person, I love having you on here sharing this because you're authentic, you're genuine, you're real, and you do what you say you do. And that's a very rare commodity in this world. Sometimes I feel a little isolated speaking to these languages and talking to this and speaking to this experience because I run into so much of the other crap. And very rarely do I run into somebody like you who really knows what they're doing, actually helps people and is good at it. I mean, I run into everything else. I'm sure you do too.
Oh yeah. I always go back to my, my first career, which is construction management. So that's dealing with massive commercial contractors. And in
Yeah.
that world, easily 75% are very, very low grade companies.
Yeah.
So the
By
Amazon
my
world,
name.
unfortunately, is the same. It's probably higher than 75%,
That's
but
probably higher.
yeah, it's probably higher. There's just, everyone is lurking, trying to take advantage of ignorant people. That's kind of like, if I could like piece it together and come up with a slogan. That's what it is. That's what most service providers are looking for. They're charging you as much as they can and giving the lowest amount of value possible. So it's really
Yeah.
important to kind of look at all your options, and instead of going with something just because it has a beautiful website, actually, research at things like Trustpilot, or asking people industry, or going on LinkedIn and being like, hey, have you heard of this guy? There's a lot of just kind of research that should be done to keep you safe.
Yeah, and the basic concept of business fundamentals, don't just give somebody $40,000 to $100,000 on a 50-50 profit split when they're doing drop shipping. Please hear me on that one.
Yeah,
I heard a guy come through the other day, a sad story. He lost 108 grand on one of those deals.
that's
Then multiple
insane.
stores that he was never going to get back because they shut it down. He's like, we were making really great profit for 2 months, and then the company up and died, and all 6 stores went down, and they just went
Well,
bankrupt.
the other
They
problem too is they disappear.
they just
They-
disappeared. They took the money
Yeah, they
and run.
disappear. Yeah,
Totally
it's
took the
really
money and run.
sad.
So there's 3 investment strategies that people usually take advantage of: friend, family, and fools. So don't be in that game. Like, do your due diligence, as John was saying. This is one of the things we echo here, and it's good to hear you say that. Go out,
Yep.
check it, look at their network, look who their peers are, and literally, as stupid as it sounds, go through their social media and what they're posting about. If it's G-Wagons all the time, Lambos and houses and travel, these are just indicators that maybe this person isn't really who you think they are. Just take it for a grain of salt and keep looking.
Exactly. And always remember this. I'll just add this last little note. Always
Yeah,
remember that with a lot of accounts out there on social media, they have purchased a lot of robots to fake
that's so true.
interaction. So
That's
just
so true.
remember that, make sure that when you're, researching people, and it doesn't even have to be me, whatever you're looking at from a service provider, even, down
Yeah.
to, you want a full management company, make sure that, they have a little more face than just the website. Make sure they're involved in industry. Maybe they've done some speaking events, go look at reviews. Just be really careful.
So let's switch gears for just a second. And there's obviously a thing occurring in the United States, but it's occurring around the world even worse. And to our benefit, the dollar has risen in value while literally inflation has gone up in larger areas around the world, causing our inflation to not be as
Yeah.
bad, which is not a good thing. 2 bads don't make a right. Where are you seeing the next level of your business going? Investment, money, profit, e-com? Like, where do you just, crystal ball me for a second? Where does John see things going?
Well, if things are going to get more competitive on Amazon, I think there's going to be a flood of D2C brands coming to Amazon finally. A lot of them have really held off just because it hasn't been attractive. So now Amazon's definitely making that more attractive through I forget what it's called. Basically, from your store page, you can actually send traffic right back to your D2C site. So it's going to be more competitive from a listing standpoint. Say goodbye to pictures with your iPhone. Like, you're going to have to start thinking as a seller, you need to start hiring photography studios with real models, for example. Like,
Yes.
I think we're going to see a lot less stock photography on Amazon, and we're going to see
Agreed.
real branding,
Real brand
real
driven.
models,
Mhm.
which honestly, I've been preaching about that
Good.
for a few years.
It's good.
Yeah. So, Amazon as a whole is going to become more and more customer focused and just more beautiful. So statistically, Chinese sellers are fleeing the platform. So they're going to other places,
Yes.
but American sellers are increasing. And part of that is that the top 2 brands are like, okay, guys, we can't ignore Amazon anymore. So pretty soon Amazon is going to be at 60% of all digital sales in America. So to ignore Amazon would be to be damaging your business, really.
Be losing on share, Mark. You mentioned the Shopify transfer. I'm seeing that too. Getting a lot more inquiries from people who are on the Shopify side saying, okay, I'm getting some spillover. I notice, 10% of my traffic, some of them are like up to 18, 20% of their traffic are coming over to Amazon, and I don't have a good presence there. I'm certainly not taking advantage of that channel. All I'm getting is spillover from my DTC channel. So there's a huge opportunity, almost found money is what we refer to it as. So I definitely see that too. Amazon's brand management is making it easier for brands to work better, forcing you to get into the brand levels and, get to A+ or premium content. You got to level up your business, level up your product SKUs. You got to obviously change the way you're doing this. And it's something I know you've said, and I've watched some of your other videos, and I've been saying it for 5 years. You've got to be brand driven minded in your orientation, which is, like you said, creating a better quality listing, image, graphics, etc., and coming to market to really compete. If you're not, then you are playing a side hustle hobby business, and guys like Jon and I are going to eat your lunch. And it won't be too difficult for us because you're making it easy.
Wow. Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Jon, you want to send with people today?
Yeah, just one last one. Beautiful pictures is one thing, but brand story is another. So, I was working with a client recently, and we're talking about how we can position him to be really like pull on those emotional heartstrings. So part of it is there was a serious illness in the family and someone passed away. So he's wrapping that up, and it makes a lot of sense actually for his product of how to cope with that event in his family, which was heartbreaking, obviously. So anytime you can be the face of your brand, that's always awesome. There's going to be more and more competition from a brand story perspective of, okay, these two are generally priced the same, but like I want to be part of something more. Some brands, it makes a lot of sense for them to partner with charities. I've done that as well. That's a really good option. Like if you want to support a veteran business and be really patriotic, that's one option. If you want to support sustainability, that's another one. Think about ways that you can go outside of, okay, I have an awesome product and it's going to delight the customer, but how can I go further than that?
Yeah.
And so that's really important. You can wrap that up really nicely in the A+ content as well.
That is a good last word, my friend. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate having you here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
If you like this episode, please share it with people you think will enjoy it as well. Thank you for listening, and be sure to tune in next week for a brand new episode of High Voltage Business Builders.